Fam, how many things can I fix at once? Man, I'm not a robot, fam.
We know you're too imperfect to be a robot.
Fam, that is not necessary. And what's going on with these squares? These squares are kind of small now. It's really upsetting. I think somebody got in there, changed the settings, made everything way too small. And now I got to yell at Josh later on for doing what he's doing. Guys, welcome back to the show. This is the TruthWire. We want to thank you for going around and adjusting to our schedule. We have a lot of things going on, a lot of things in the personal life, a lot of things in the professional life, a lot of things in the fantasy life. That's the world we live in right now with Donald Trump every single day. You know, I had Kyle Anzalone on today for the morning show, fam, for drive time in the morning, and he even said it was like, you know, even, you know, analyzing all the little stuff, you'd have your head would be spinning if you try to analyze what's going on with the West and Donald Trump, because he says all this shit all the time. It's just crazy. So we're here to bring you that perspective that you won't get on CNN or Fox News.
Yeah, and this little square thing, it's bothering me so much right now.
What about that, fam?
That is so weird. I don't know what's going on.
Man,
honestly, yeah, that's strange. But yeah, something always has to happen here. Yeah, I'm in the US right now just for a short time. So, yeah, it's the same old shit here. Every time I come back, I'm like, this is just, I don't know, man. People are so, oh, that's much better.
Yeah, I know. I got it. I'm talented, fam.
There's something to it. Thank you all. Yes, and thank you, Gabrielle Freedom, for posting this. Yes, please help us out. We did manage to get our funds, but some people had already requested a refund. But we did manage to get them from what's that thing called? The Jesus one? The Christian one?
Gives and Go.
Gives and Go. But I wouldn't trust it again because that was just ridiculous. And yeah, so did I tell you all how I was detained at the airport? I didn't tell the story.
Tell us the story.
So on my way back, I was stopped, and look, like they put like the nicest guy to like take you and question you. But they did take my phone. They made me unlock my phone, and they took it to a room for like 30 minutes, and it was a transfer, granted, right? So I didn't expect to be, I could have missed my flight. So This is the second time I've been detained. The first one was much more inquisitive. It was much more probably intimidating, because then the next day the guy was on my flight, like looking for me. But that was related to me going to Cuba, and you know how they feel about Cuba. I was just coming back from Peru to the United States. I haven't been back in over 6 months to the United States. It's been a while. So usually when you don't go back into the United States as an American citizen, they basically have like some sort of ping that maybe you might be questioned further. They'll ask you why you haven't been back. But as soon as I went to the counter, usually it's very quick. Oh, okay, welcome back. That's it. Like as soon as I went to the counter, he was like, all right. And some other guy came in and then took me to another room.
Yeah.
And then from that room, I got taken to another room.
Yeah.
And it was
Did
like
they have your phone the whole time, or?
No. They had my phone, and so they took so he went through my whole purse, and I had a lot of receipts there. So I didn't delete anything. I didn't do anything. I have said to multiple people, like, I don't agree with what they're doing, like taking your phone. And granted, Russia has done the same thing. Like they'll take your phone too. That's happened to me like once, where they've looked at my phone, but they did it in front of me. So they were just looking through stuff. And that was, I believe that was in Donbass, where they did it in front of me. It's getting to the point where it's in the United States, one of the things they could hold up against every major country in the world is the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, but especially the First Amendment, the right to freedom of speech, of the freedom of protest, your right to also privacy, right? These are the very, very important amendments that we have in the Constitution of the United States. And for all the America First people, this should be a concern. So of course they ping me and they take me in and they ask me a bunch of questions, my whole life story, where I've been working the last 10 years, who do I know, my family, where they work, my like everything. And so I answer, honestly, for I don't lie. But there are things that you may not know, or you don't have to answer, right? So I just felt like all of this information they could have already known, because I've already been through this before. So sometimes it's almost to verify that what you're saying is true. Now, the thing that gets me, it's like, it's no longer applicable to say the United States holds freedom of speech or freedom and privacy or all of this stuff at any sort of level, when you are literally going into people's phones. And if I had refused, I would have missed my flight. I would have, they could have kept it. I have a friend, by the way, who is of Middle Eastern descent, but also American. She got her phone taken because they can keep it. They gave it back to me after they did whatever they did to it. But they can keep it technically, and they can keep it for an indefinite amount of time. Well, they kept my friend's phone, and she still hasn't gotten it back. But of course, she's Middle Eastern American, so there's an added stigma to that. And so I'm just letting you all know that this is very real and it's happening. Do I see it happening more for people who are like me, who have two citizenships? I did it before. Now I do. Before, I didn't have a Peruvian passport. They saw the Peruvian passport and were like, oh, how long have you been an American citizen? And I was like, that's an interesting question to ask. Because remember, Donald Trump is persecuting the people who have double citizenships. Of course, unless you're Israeli. If you're Israeli, you're allowed to have as many citizenships as possible. And look, I'm not hiding the fact that I'm an independent journalist. I'm not hiding my political positions, because these are not positions that should be criminalized. But unfortunately, when it comes to Israel, these are things that can be criminalized. And if you read I couldn't take a picture of it because I didn't have a phone, but if you read what they can do to your phone and your computer and your devices, they can keep them. So just a warning, if you're going into the United States and you would have you know, you have to you have some sort of opinions, or you're coming from a country that could be a political whatever to the United States, chances are you could be questioned, especially if you are not an Anglo-Saxon, Caucasian type of person, and or if you have two citizenships that could be pulled into questioning. So yeah, and the reason I didn't just say, oh, I'm just gonna fight it. I'm not, you know, guys. Unfortunately, I had to get home. Like an emergency. I could not miss my flight. One, two. I want my phone back. I want all the things back, and I'm just no longer hiding it. Like if they know, they're going to know everything it is to know about us. I'm against it completely. I'm against what's happening. I 100% stand against what they're doing. But if I say no, it's just going to create more problems. And the things that I've like that I don't want people to see or whatever, you know, you just don't put them on your phone, right? But here's the thing. They specifically said they were checking for child pornography, drug trafficking, and terrorism, right? All these things. But guys, if they take your phone or your computer or whatever else you have, we've all known the stories of people getting blamed for things they didn't do, inserting this material. They could do whatever the hell they want, and there's no way to defend it. Obviously, I would never have any of this material CSAM, right? In that, right? And in my phone, anywhere in my apparatus. So you know, like if that were ever the case. But if I were a guy, if I were, you know, if the shoe fits, if you're somebody important, I've seen the stories of people being framed and such. So that is one thing that I say, well, they're taking it. I don't know what they're doing with it. But you know, it's not just for people like Danny Shaw that are going to Cuba that this is happening now. It's happening a lot. And actually, the guy who checks the passport, he was saying, God, I have a lot of these today. So they were going after a lot of people. This is a new thing. Because before it was like, oh, I came from Russia. I was in Russia. Okay. Like now it's like, oh no, like for anything, they're just checking on everybody now. So this is now escalating. I'm telling you because I've been traveling from the Russia to the United States, and until Trump recently passed this thing, that's when it's like, okay, now we're checking more things and we're doing more things and the latter. So yeah, I mean, look, at this point, I don't think things are gonna improve. I think things are gonna get more fascistic in the extreme sense, but we're also gonna be we're already being surveilled. Your phone is a surveillance device. Your refrigerator, your TV, your car, your earbuds now are going to have cameras. So I honestly, either we all go live away in the middle of nowhere where we don't have internet, where we don't have access to anything, which I think is also a possibility, or we find ways to fight back against this, but by also remaining vocal. Because if we're not vocal about this stuff, then it's just going to get worse, and nobody, you know, nobody's going to think it's happening when it is happening. It's happening to a lot of people. Obviously, I'm more of a target than others, but I don't think it's just because of that. I don't think I'm definitely the only one this has been happening to whatsoever. So I just wanted to let you guys know on that.
That's what you get for rubbing elbows with Vladimir Putin, fam. Remember the time we did come back from Colombia? It was like the one time that I got questioned more than anybody else. A white guy coming into South Florida from Colombia. They're like, yeah, what are you bringing with you? Are you bringing the white lobster? You know, I think fam says, like, now you know what it feels like when we come back in here. We get questioned all the time. Reparations. So it was funny when we did come back into Colombia. When I flew into Vegas from a Latin American country, I got stopped too as well and questioned. They thought I was like, what are you bringing back to Vegas? I'm like, nothing. Got some T-shirts. But that was it. Fam, let's get rolling. We got a long show. We got a lot of things to talk about and not much time to do it. Let's start with this sucker right over here. Russia tells the U.S. that it will start systematic strikes, on military sites and decision-making centers in Kiev. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that the attacks were a response to a Ukrainian drone attack on a school in Luhansk, which killed 21 people. Fam, you have been mentioning time and time again the way the Ukrainians have also been bombing drone-wise oil depots and whatnot. So this is like a long time coming. We've been sitting here saying, what's going to happen? What are you doing? Putin's popularity has to be lessening, right? It has to be dropping a little bit. But some people are making light of it. Oh, like, you know, his approval rating will go from 79% to 71%. But I mean, people have to be getting frustrated with the hesitation. I think you said it, fam, that this war has lasted longer than the Great War. And, you know, people in Moscow and all of Russia must be upset.
Yeah, I mean, so what Ukraine did, which isn't, again, it's always not talked about in mainstream media, is attack, like very much like Israel does, a school, killing a lot of children. And if Russia did not respond to that at, in Lugansk in one way or another, after Ukraine has been attacking their oil depots, and after time and time again, we see Kirill Dmitriev go to Donald Trump asking, please, please lift the sanctions month after month. And they have been getting a respite, right? Because if they wouldn't lift the sanctions, and then they would also be getting attacked against their energy infrastructures, it's going to affect them even more. So at least they've been getting the sanctions lifted. But time and time again, people have been asking Putin to really ramp up the retaliations against Ukraine. And very much like, it seems either they can't, or they're unwilling, or they're trying to find some sort of negotiation. And we've heard, of course, from Kirill Dmitriev, who has said peace is the way, because he wants a negotiation. They want to do economic deals, so he's pushing for that. The other end of the spectrum in Moscow wants full retaliation against Ukraine. They want more aggressiveness from Putin. They have been even touting that they need Dmitry Medvedev back into the presidency because he's more aggressive and he would have done more, you know. So now people have been saying, why is Putin not acting out more? Why is he not going after Ukraine? So if Russia didn't do that, it would have just been absolutely bad. And remember, the Russians don't really pay mind to PR. They don't really do PR. Not really, not the way we do it in the United States, right? And so they did retaliate with attacks against Kiev. And what does that do? Oh, the media goes on and says, okay, look at how Russia is attacking Kiev, and they're attacking the center of Kiev, and they're going after people. But they're not talking about all the drone strikes on Moscow that happened recently, all the threats that happened on May 9th. They're not talking about the attacks on children, on kids in Lugansk. And so that is this back and forth we're still seeing. And again, like I know that Putin's approval rating has diminished, but it's only mostly because there hasn't been an end to this 4-year war that surpassed the Great Patriotic War. And people have found themselves understanding that the numbers that they are being given are largely under, for example, soldiers that have died are largely underreported, which is, as I've said, happens pretty much everywhere in every war. And they are waiting for Russia to do what it says it will do. Oh, I have these red lines, you're not going to cross them. And so that we're seeing how Russia is going to respond now. And what we're seeing now is a bit of a pushback. But I still don't know which side's going to win here, because it does seem like the Kremlin has, Kirill Dmitriev has the Kremlin's approval to continue pursuing some sort of negotiations with the Trump administration. But I think Russia badly miscalculated the response against them. And now they're in a position where I honestly don't see it as a win anymore. People are probably going to push back on that. I don't see Russia in a winning position right now. I haven't for months. And as somebody with so much love for Russia, it really does pain me to say that, but I don't see how they get out of this one without a negotiation where they give in, or if they pursue further, then that's what Ukraine want or NATO wants, right? And then they're gonna wait until there's a freaking Democrat and go full force against Russia. This could last forever. So meanwhile, domestically, people are unhappy with the current state of affairs. So
what do we got here?
So this is Russia Security Council, Sergei Shoigu. He's saying we have seriously and consciously warned ambassadors to leave Kiev because strikes can happen at any moment. So they have been striking Kiev, but they have been warning people that more strikes are imminent and more strikes are coming. So let's hear what he said.
You want to read this as I have it on notes? Read it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, here, rather, it is less applicable. I think all of our actions are visible. We show them, moreover, we warn about some actions in advance. In this case, you talked about warning the ambassadors to leave Kiev. It was done very seriously and consciously because it can happen at any moment. And at the same time, when we consider that the answer should be as powerful as that we have talked about many times, we responded to the terrorist act that caused victims among our children. Such young people, photographs of whom we saw here, and showed them to everyone. On this forum, so that it is clear how deep and serious the tragedy that both parents and the whole what if Russia suffered is. That translation's a little bit, but yeah, you guys get the picture. He's basically saying Russia responded because of the attack. It was a terrorist attack because you're attacking residential buildings, you're attacking schools, you're attacking areas where you're killing civilians. They're not attacking infrastructure. They're attacking, that's why they didn't respond before with the oil depots. But should they have responded before? Yeah, I mean, this is Russia has oil. That's what they have, and that's what they need. So if something is done to attack that, Russia can very quickly fall or be in a vulnerable position. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think about these latest actions from Russia?
Well, I got some questions. Number one is this war now ended? Is now entered a whole new state of craziness? I mean, now we're talking about a response to bombing children in Lugansk. Now, I know before Russia got involved, there was 14,000 people in the Donbass that were killed, and a lot of them were women and children. They were bombing residential areas, as our battalion was in the Donbass. But that was a long time ago. Most of the killings and the deaths have been on the war front, on the front lines. Now we see over this last year, the war pivot to more of a drone war, right? Where it's like, okay, now they're going into each territory. Ukraine sending drones into Russia, into proper Russia, Greater Russia, whatever you want to call it, Russia proper. And now we hear, even in the Donbass, though, which is now Russian territory, it's been liberated, a bombing on a school with children. And a lot of people haven't been paying attention to Ukraine or Russia for quite some time because there's so much stuff going on in Gaza, and then there was much stuff going on in Iran. And it's almost seemed like the mainstream media or even the independent media has put this war on the back burner. But you mentioned yourself the Great Patriotic War, which is what it's called. This has gone on longer than that war. What the heck are we to expect? Is this going to escalate? And if they're going to start hitting Kiev, isn't the next step, okay, now we got to eventually invade Kiev?
Yeah. So Russia has two choices. And let me pose this, by the way. Somebody said that there's 350,000 North Korean troops ready for Kiev, right? Why does Russia need North Korean troops? I thought they had all the troops in the world and all the the people ready to fight, right? Like, why are they in need of North Korean troops? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, or that they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying if the numbers were what they said, they wouldn't necessarily need North Korean troops. And they initially denied that there were North Korean troops. They told everybody that that wasn't true. And then, of course, later on, it was discovered, no, that the North Korean troops were there helping them against Ukraine. They also have, just like Ukraine has fighters that join, they also have other people that join willingly or unwillingly to fight on Russia's side. A lot of people from Latin America. There's a story I have on Peruvians. I don't know if you guys have seen that, who joined the Russian military on that end.
The other side's doing the same though too, right? We saw that
that's what I'm saying.
Colombia and the Philippines have been providing, troops to yeah. Crazy.
But that's what I'm saying. Russia never says that. They do the same thing. Ukraine more forcibly, like kind of kidnaps their own people. We haven't seen that in Russia. We haven't seen people be taken off, the streets and stuff like that in the same way you've seen Ukraine. But what I'm saying is there's clearly a need for Russia to have some sort of additional troops from North Korea. So Russia has the two options. It either continues this fight and fully commits to taking as much of Ukraine as it possibly can, despite whatever NATO might or might not do, or it finds negotiations, takes what it can, gives in whatever it must, and then moves on. But they're not going to move on until they take Russia, until they balkanize Russia. So really, do they have a choice at all? Right. And if it seems to me they're not fully committed to going all the way. And when you're not fully committed and when you're waffling as to what to do, and when you have people internally in Moscow who are at odds with each other, who are disagreeing with which route to take, it creates a perfect scene or a perfect stadium of instability for others to take advantage of that. Like, in come the fifth columnists who want to basically, they say they want Russia to be different than the EU, but they really don't. At the end of the day, when we're looking at economics, they want Russia to be open to the West. And so a lot of people keep talking about BRICS. BRICS is like, what has BRICS done really right now with Saudi Arabia and India working on behalf of Zionists, working on behalf of the United States? What have they done to actually counter the United States? It's a pipe dream. The only one that comes out of this fine is China, because China has made itself completely the force that can be most easily dependent on. Like, people need China for resources, for trade, for all of that. So China will come out of this fine, but I don't think Russia is in that. I don't see Russia coming out of this fine when it comes to this, Iran and Russia and China thing, where people are just thinking, oh, this is a new world. It's a new multipolar world. I'm not seeing what people are seeing here.
Let's get on to Bolivia, fam, because there's a lot of stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, this stuff is going to be crazy. And things are going to heat up in Peru, too, as well. So we have to keep our eyes on Latin America. We did mention the fact that we felt that when Donald Trump's administration got in for the second administration here, the second presidency, second term, that this time will be more of a pivot and more of a iron fist trying to throw down in Latin America, try to make sure to regain their support and their stronghold in these countries, make sure they can get all those resources. Bolivia's got a lot of lithium, fam, and the United States wants it. This is Joseph Bouchard. It says, protests and roadblocks continue. There are confirmed deaths by the government, but the government denies them. Expected vote on the state of emergency. The far right will likely to begin to dismantle blockades by force with the government's support. Today could be a dark turning point, and here they are. You can see their fam, the workers. They're pushing it to the max. Go ahead, fam. Your thoughts.
Well, Bolivia, again, I mean, they're not just going to give up, you know, they're going to continue as until they can. And this is a fight for Bolivia as an actual sovereign state. This is what people need to understand about Bolivia. If Bolivia doesn't stand its ground, if the people of Bolivia, the miners, the unions, the teachers, the students, the people of Bolivia, the people that work for the riches of Bolivia, which have been since in the last few years going outside of the country, the lithium, don't put an end to this and don't stand up, it's a done deal, right? It's a done deal. We see what the United States is doing right now with Guatemala, right? We see what they're doing with Ecuador. We see what they're trying to do in Peru, what they've done in Venezuela. I could go on and on. This is all part of the bigger plan. This is, you know, another Operation Condor, but this is on steroids now because now we have drones. Now we have AI. We have surveillance. We have Palantir going into Venezuela. I mean, this is now that science fiction world that we've always talked about is happening as we speak. And the areas with most resources, not just for lithium, but others are being captured one by one. And so Bolivians, especially the indigenous people, recognize this. And so they're effectively fighting against it. It's life or death right now. It would be very hard to get it back if they lose it now. So this is why the United States government said we can't lose Bolivia. Their words, we can't lose Bolivia. So fam, this is a report from Sovereign Media. This is a very important thing I want you guys to understand. So the Bolivia Chamber of Deputies, equivalent to a Congress or a parliament, voted to repeal Law 1341. This granted the President Rodrigo Paz expanded emergency powers to deploy the military and declare a state of emergency during civil unrest, meaning he can send the military towards the protesters. So this eliminates the limit on the emergency executive powers. And this is after 4 weeks, right, of the protests. And all of these people, of course, are demanding his resignation. And he's not really budging. So the government is saying this is necessary to restore peace, to resume, you know, the flow of traffic, food, etc., into the city. Essentially, what it does, though, is it allows for military-grade weapons to be used on protesters who are simply demanding an end to the austerity, right? And so this is the protesters and the union workers and all of that are saying that they're going to be basically having no safeguards against whatever the government decides to do to them. And so we're talking about military-grade weapons being used against them. So that's something that just happened. And it's extremely important that people really, really understand what it means. And we're seeing now that the United States, it's probably the next one or whatever, has declared, has wanted, demanded that Bolivia impose martial law. Okay, so I'll talk about that in a second. But here is an alert just from a few hours ago, I think yesterday. These are the United States Armed Forces. A plane arrived in the city of El Alto, Bolivia. Supposedly they arrived with humanitarian aid, but within the police, information is leaked that they are bringing at least 18,000 rounds of tear gas ammunition. All of this comes after Rodrigo Paz repealed Law 1341 to more easily declare a state of emergency. So this is what they consider humanitarian aid, guys. When they talk about humanitarian aid on the people of Bolivia, they're talking about tear gas. They're talking about military weapons. And Pasta and I can tell you, tear gas is one of the worst things you will feel in your face, in your body. It's absolute awful.
I was cursing like crazy the first time I got a taste of it in Portland. I was screaming, "You mother!" It was awful.
You can't do anything. It paralyzes you, essentially. And they're using this. And granted, they're probably going to use worse. People have already died in Bolivia. Protesters have already died. And so this is just escalating. And so the next thing, Pasta, is I believe that they've asked, they've had the massive blackouts too that are affecting Cochabamba in Bolivia, the Tropic of Cochabamba. And so there's no signs that this is going to not happen again, that it's going to be restored. This is a war, right? It's essentially a civil war if we really think about it. We have the
It's the
people,
rich versus the workers.
yeah, and it's the government versus the people, a
Yes.
government that they know. We know that this guy came into power because of the manipulations behind the scenes against Evo Morales, because of the coup, the illegal coup. But they don't say anything when they illegally couped Evo Morales, right? But now that the people are pushing back against all of this, that's when they start talking about this stuff. So, and then I think the next thing is what's happening now, and I want you guys to really mostly get your information on Bolivia, not from a lot of these big X accounts, but from people that are either in Bolivia or have covered Bolivia for years. So
Holly's
Camilla,
covered it for a long time, lives in Bolivia.
I think he's in London now, but I don't know if he's in Bolivia, but he has been covering it for a long
He
time.
lived
So
in
has
Bolivia for a
Camilla.
while.
Yeah, he's Bolivian, part Bolivian. And Camilla has been covering it as well. So please get your information from Bolivian sources, not from like internet, because sometimes it can be wrong. So
You mean it's not okay to get it's not okay to get sources like Steven Crowder talking to real Cubans, he said, like about Latin America and like, you know, people like Benny Johnson and stuff like that who, you know.
I mean, you can, it's just not going to be necessarily correct. So he set up patriotic factions within Bolivia's military have confirmed. The U.S. Embassy has ordered Bolivian government to declare martial law to break the strikes. Embassy has told President Paz, we can't lose Bolivia. That's the U.S. Embassy has told the President Paz, we can't lose Bolivia. I didn't know Bolivia was theirs to begin with. Bolivia's cabinet is divided. Some don't want to implement the U.S. orders. And, you know, and I said, any sort of respectable Bolivian person would be against this. Why is the United States capable of giving orders to Bolivia, to Mexico, to Venezuela, to any country? Why will they consider it their territory? And eventually they won't just say it, they're just going to take it. And that's what we're seeing now. And if Bolivia doesn't fight back, it's just going to be another cross off on the list of countries the United States is taking. And this is why I don't see the empire crumbling. I think the empire is transforming. And what's crumbling is the lives of working people across the world. All of us are vulnerable now to a society that is going to be heavily mass surveilled. It's going to be heavily fascistic. And it's going to basically try to create a world where if you don't comply, your life will be hell. And so how will you organize now? How will you organize a communist revolution in the streets when you're being surveilled and they can drone your ass? How is that going to happen? This is the moment to actually do something about it before it's fully done. Because once it's fully done, believe me, it's going to be far worse than anything you've seen in science fiction. It's going to be difficult to rise up against that.
Has there been orders to go after Evo Morales and capture him and kill him? I thought that's what Charlie Vargas tweet was going to mention. I didn't see.
No, that was last week, or last week we talked about that.
I mean, have they doubled down? Are they going out? Are they looking for Evo right now? Are they going to try to grab him? I mean, have you heard anything?
No, I mean we know that's what they're doing. Yeah. The police. So there are people within the police and the military that are leaking this information, and that's coming from not just Ollie, but from people on the ground that are saying this. That there's always going to be people in the confines of power that have power that turn against the state when they see that the state is abusing them. Because there was this video of this one indigenous guy protester. I think he was a mine worker, and he was saying, my brother is there on the other side shooting at me. Like this is like in any normal country, you have people that work for the police and you have people that work for another industry. Well, in Bolivia, you're having what is a civil war. And so what the United States does in civil war situations or in situations where they turn people against each other is they exploit that to say, well, we don't want lack of democracy to happen. So we're going to come in and we're going to take over to restore democracy, which is why they had this statement along with Israel saying they support democracy, which is why this statement from Lula is absolutely unacceptable and disgusting. And this is, I said something that I think a lot of people finally understood. This is the problem with social democrats. This is exactly a prime example of what we mean when you really can't trust social democrats. They serve a purpose to a degree. Lula compared to Bolsonaro, of course. In Latin America, it's not as black and white as the United States. They are still not beyond electoral reform in Latin America. In the United States, we are beyond electoral reform because it doesn't exist. So Lula, right, when he won his election, he was supported by a lot of people for, as Pasta said, just like bringing in food, bringing in more money, making your money, especially for the working class, go further, which is why he was supported by the working people. But this is something that really hurts when you see who he's supporting here. He said this afternoon, Monday the 25th, I received a phone call from the president of Bolivia, Rodrigo Paz. We discussed the humanitarian situation faced by Bolivia as a result of protests and road blockades, which have been causing supply shortages in some regions of the country. I reiterated my solidarity with the Bolivian government and people and emphasized the importance of full respect for democratic institutions and the rule of law. I advocated that the government and social movements avoid resorting to violence and prioritize dialogue as the path to overcoming differences and preserving social peace. At the request of President Rodrigo Paz, I ordered the sending of humanitarian aid to Bolivia. I don't know what this humanitarian aid is. I'm hoping, I'm betting it's not what the United States sent. I'm betting it is likely humanitarian aid because he has sent troops before against Haiti, and Haitians will never let him forget that. Yeah. Right? They'll never let him forget that. So that's not. So I wouldn't put it past him to do this again. I'm not surprised, but it was absolutely
upsetting.
Not. It was just actually bad for him too, because he's in the middle of an election that he can lose. Like he's the election is in October for the presidential election.
Bolsonaro's son.
And he can lose to Bolsonaro's son. Guys, I don't want him to lose to Bolsonaro's son. Like, pragmatically speaking, that if they take Brazil is still a very, very important player. At least Lula, who knows how to play the game, and I don't trust him fully, right, is not going to fully just align himself with the Zionist end. And so this does damage to him for a lot of the people that support him for the reasons that he stood against the Zionists. He's been vocal about working class issues, about helping the indigenous communities of Brazil. Who is this helping? These are the indigenous communities of Bolivia, and he's standing with a repressive government. I mean, it's not surprising because he's a social democrat and they really care about democracy and the bullshit, regardless of what that means. So yeah, he does seem like a Bernie. Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, it's like you can't really trust the guy. Yeah, it's disappointing to say.
Oh, you made it into a thing. He's a Bernie, a cuck sellout. You know, I mean, and the whole thing about Bernie Sanders, and I don't know if what the kind of comparison to explain to the audience what the way I'm seeing it, maybe you see it a little bit differently, is that there are choices that Lula had. He doesn't have to go this route. A lot of people would talk about the Haitian issue that was really kind of like, and it wasn't just Haitians, right? There were people like from Black Alliance for Peace and all these other groups that would talk about it like, ew, what about these actions with Lula in Haiti? He has a choice. Bernie Sanders had a choice. Bernie Sanders didn't have to stay within the Democratic Party. He could have come out and ran on Jill Stein's ticket for the Green Party the year he was cheated by the Democrats from Hillary Clinton. Would he have won? Maybe not, but he would have still made a big statement. He had a choice, but he chose to be a coward and stay inside the Democratic Party. He had a choice to stick with the people who got him there, the working class, but he chose to put himself on the side of the powerful. Lula's kind of made somewhat of that same choice right there when he didn't have to do this. And I think you mentioned clearly, fam, that, he's in a contested election. He could lose it. And it's actions like this that could diminish his support, and people won't show up for him because they're pissed off at shit like this.
Yeah.
And they won't show up for him. This could really, really, really hurt him. Fam, what is going on in Guatemala with the Chapins, fam? The Chapins.
This isn't Bolivia related, but it is Latin America related. And it kind of hits the point as to what is happening in Bolivia as part of a larger directive of the United States, is Don Roe Doctrine, right? So Guatemala has agreed to allow joint U.S. military strikes on drug trafficking groups inside its borders. It's the second arrangement under Trump. Remember Ecuador, where we had that. And Honduras, of course, as we've seen with Honduras Gate, is next, where they're going to target the narco drug traffickers. And so if Colombia, which we're going to talk about shortly, goes a certain way, this is what we're going to be seeing. We're going to be seeing this exact thing, and they can very well do it in Peru as well, because Peru don't have the drug narc traffickers thing that they could really use against it, but they can turn anything into that because they have crime. And so that is definitely what they use to justify its military presence on the and in Latin America. But this point is very important, because this does encircle Mexico. When you see them taking these countries in Central America one by one, these are south, right, of Mexico. These countries are in Central America. Remember, Mexico is technically in North America. And so they get to encircle Mexico. And if they take Nicaragua, which, oh my goodness, like Nicaragua had some of the most, patriotic, anti-Yankee people that you can think of, but an older and vulnerable leader, they'll be able to fully do anything. I mean, now Nicaragua is basically alone in Central America with nobody to back it, right? And you've seen this is part of Marco Rubio, because, by the way, behind Trump is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio has this just obsession with taking down anything remotely left, anything that he can label socialist or communist. And he thinks he's like it's his job to go after all these countries. And he's made it his life's mission to do that. And that's exactly what he's doing. This policy is what he's been working on for his entire career. And yes, Marco Rubio did not escape Cuba under Batista, under Castro. He did it under Batista. Yeah.
So he's just the king of fugaziness, the prince of fugaziness is Marco Rubio. Some people say it's Pete Hegseth. Fam, I want to kind of go through really quickly. I mean, that was a good bow you put on that section over there. It's funny because I said not too long ago, really, fam, I hope the people come in from the outer skirts, the indigenous areas of Bolivia and Peru, because we need a workers' movement. And, I said I wanted them to come in and start hanging some people. I was a little bit over the top, but, I'll just take the revolution style, come on in and protest, and you dictate what your government does. The government doesn't dictate what you do, right? And there's so much interference, and they've been brewing this up and stewing this up ever since the first time they got involved with making sure Evo wouldn't get back into office. Evo was going to run again. He would have been continuing to run. Bolivia, the working class would have been continued to be supported and enriched as they deserve to do so. Now anything's up for grabs. Now it's about exploitation of the resources, exploitation of the Amazon, the way they're in Latin America. I mean, there's so much shit going on. So I was rooting for something like this to happen, and be careful what you wish for, because it might come true. And I'm going to be very sad if they do bring in the military and more people are killed and hurt. However, I am so proud and happy for the Bolivian working class and indigenous people who are coming in and showing the world that if the workers unite, they can control things, not be controlled. And like you said, fam, if we continue to wait, it's going to be too late. Because once they get the grid in place, then it's You know, it's the second part of the Terminator, not the first. Skynet is then working. Especially the Matrix will come, and that means we get plugged in. Fam, I can't believe I lost it. Let me go back and grab it real quick. Anything else to say before we get to this next section here? Real quickly about Iran or Iran or Iran? Iran, whichever one.
Whatever you want, fam.
All right, fam.
Iran.
Why isn't this? Come on. Iran is the way I like to say. The Democrats and the media have totally lost their way, fam. I didn't know if you know this.
It's lovely. That's coming from the official White House account.
If Iran surrenders, notice I went with Iran. I don't think Donald Trump's going, if Iran surrenders, he's going, Iran. No. If Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and is resting at the bottom of the sea, and their air force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped and their hands held high, each shouting, I surrender, while wildly waving the representative white flag, and their entire remaining leadership signs all the necessary documents of surrender and admit their defeat to the great power and the force of the magnificent U.S. of A., the failing New York Times, the China Street Journalist, the China Street Journal, excuse me, not the Wall Street Journal, the China Street Journal, corrupt and now irrelevant CNN, which is the Clinton News Network, and all the other members of the fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States of America. It wasn't even close. The Democrats and the media have totally lost their way. They have gone absolutely crazy. These people are crazy. Thank you with importance to this matter. President Donald J. Trump, fam.
It's thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yes, son of a beeswax. It wasn't there. I tried to add it and I got it screwed on it.
I can't even believe that's not like
parody.
A 12-year-old who wrote it. It sounds like a 12-year-old would write. I mean, I remember being in middle school and people writing like that. I'm not joking. That's a fantasy. You know, Iran's never going to do that. I can't take this seriously, fam. Go on.
Well, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, it's ridiculous what he's saying. And if anybody's paying any attention, you just ask the question, well, we've won this war and stuff. How come the Strait of Hormuz is still closed? How come they're still firing rockets? How come, I mean, I know the media is trying to hide it. I mean, you got right-wing media out there that will do all these stupid stories about frauds going on with the Democrats, or, you know what I'm saying, or concentrate on culture war bullshit so they can distract and never talk about the failures of Donald Trump, including this war, because this is his biggest failure. Because if you pay even a little bit of attention, you're going to ask questions and you're going to figure out the fact is, hey, we're not winning this war, right? And if you just do a little, when he says their navy is sunken at the bottom of the ocean, he's probably talking about a couple freighters, whatever they sunk and everything. That has never been the Iranian Navy. The Iranian Navy is all about little small fast boats. They're called like a swarm group, swarm vessels, because they come out and it's like a bunch of gnats that are swarming at you. You got to swing all over the place. Well, that's what they'll do in the Gulf, right? That's what they can do. Those little fast boats get out there. They're hard to shoot down. Some of them have torpedoes. They have guns. They're all over the place. They've been preparing for this type of war. That's why they have drones too as well, and a bunch of them. They've been preparing this for quite some time. Iran says that the U.S. has violated the ceasefire and vows it will leave no act of aggression unanswered. Fam, they're coming. The Iranian foreign minister said in a statement on Tuesday that the U.S. committed a flagrant violation of the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran. A statement that came a day after the U.S. military said that it launched strikes against targets in southern Iran. Now, the U.S. Navy is admitting to it. The military and the government are admitting to it. Fam, I thought there was a ceasefire. How come they're admitting to it when there's a ceasefire?
Well, it seems like there was never a ceasefire, and like the U.S., just like Israel, violates the ceasefires time and time again, and then says there's an excuse, comes up with an excuse as to why it's justified that they violated the ceasefire, and then Iran then went and attacked facilities in Kuwait because they said you violated the ceasefire, so we're going to do the same. And so now Donald Trump can come up and say whatever the hell he wants to say, but who violated the ceasefire? It's very clear, isn't it?
Yeah. By the way, things are getting back to normal too, as well. At least, you know what I'm saying. But they're prepared to go back into a state of war. They restored the internet access test after nearly 90 days during a blackout, and that's what I was talking to my source. He's like, "Yeah, you know, Iranians got used to living without the internet, right? So what do you guys do when we go underwater? We blow up these cables, and now because the cables in the Strait of Hormuz." They seem to affect almost like 80 to 90% of the internet used around the world. They're very, very important. So what happens?
Oh, it would fall apart.
Yeah, what happens when we in the West don't get our internet? We go crazy, fam. We go nuts.
Yeah. There's no way you would hear somebody say, "Oh yeah, we got used to not having internet in the United States." What? That's never going to happen.
So one of the big reasons, fam, why I think Iran holds like most of the upper hand is Donald Trump has made these promises or threats or empty promises, I should say, threats that he's going to blow up the infrastructure of Iran. He's going to hit the energy infrastructure. He's going to hit the desalination plants. He's going to really affect some pain on the people of Iran. But Iran says you do that to us, and it's lights out for the region. We're going to hit Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and it can make it uninhabitable if they do so, right? But at the same time, you can see Iran trying to use some form of diplomacy to try to talk to these Gulf states and these Muslim nations around them to say, "Hey, man, haven't you seen if you do business with the United States, they don't care about you. They care about the Zionists and the country of Israel. They don't care about the country of Kuwait, Bahrain, whatnot. Maybe if we can find a way to unite, close up all those bases, we can work something out." What do you see in this, fam, when you see that Pezeshkian says the Muslim unity is the key from confronting the threats, and they put some form of an olive branch out there to say, "Hey, let's talk." You don't want to be with that guy. You want to be with us. We've shown you that we can defend ourselves. Come with us. What do you think, fam?
I mean, I think it's like throwing something at the wall, because I think the key to confronting threats is the resistance, because that's what has been doing anything. When you look at what they're doing to Jordan now, right? When they're trying to fully control Jordan now, the Zionists are, and you look at what's happening in Egypt, you look at what's happening in Saudi Arabia, what's happened throughout the Gulf, these countries are effectively already under the control of the United States and Israel. So for them to leave, they would have to it would have to be in their interest. And even if it is in their interest to leave, they are so under this just kind of hypnotic trance that somehow the United States is better for them in the long run, that they're so afraid to go that route. I just don't see it happening, to be honest. Because this is Pezeshkian is pretty, milquetoast. Of course he's going to go this route. But I don't see them convincing anybody in power. They could perhaps convince the people in these countries, but not the people in power. The only place, of course, I see is Bahrain, right?
Well, that's the thing. There could be an uprising, right? And I think a lot of, even in Qatar, I don't think the UAE really, that's mostly the government, a bunch of tourists over there and people from the Philippines and other countries that live there. So I don't know if you'll ever see the UAE do anything. I think at the end of the day, that's why you always hear that UAE is getting hit first, usually, because they're the lowest on the totem pole. That, right? The UAE is going to do anything the United States tells them to do. But places like Qatar, maybe Bahrain for sure, Kuwait, I think there's a lot of Kuwaitis who are ready to, overturn their government too as well. It's kind of like, okay, enough is
Yeah, the
enough. You guys are
people.
putting us in harm's way for the Christians and the Jewish empire, right? The Jewish supremacists, and we're Muslims here, and these other people that we're uniting against are Muslims. You know what I'm saying? I unfortunately, I think that's going to play a lot. You know how I feel about religion and politics, but even if you look at it just as Westerners versus Arabs, these other countries, there's going to be people in these other countries are going to be like, enough, man, fuck you. There's no protection anymore. We're not doing this anymore. So I don't know. Maybe it could happen. Maybe it couldn't. I don't know. You don't even know.
But again, in these spots where it could happen, it would happen from the resistance, from the pro-Iran pockets that are in Kuwait, that are in Bahrain, right? It's not going to happen from just the Saudi prince saying, "Oh yes, we're just going to go with Iran now." It's not going to happen from the powerful. It would be a bottom-up kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it were to happen, which then again involves like resistance forces basically taking over these countries and aligning themselves with Iran.
Fam, last section today, we have the Colombian elections, and I don't think anybody's going to win the first round. You got to get 50% plus one, more than 50%, right? 50% plus one vote. You need more than 50%.
Yeah, we're not, I'm going to try to go to the second round, but the first round we were there however many years ago. And so it was
Gilbert Hernandez. We didn't know that Gilbert Hernandez was going to finish in the top two. We didn't know who it could be. We thought it could be anybody. We were very confident that Gustavo Petro was going to get there. We just wanted to know who he was going to face off against. And there was even a thought process that there was so much, kind of like, uncertainty that Gustavo Petro might have won the first round. No, it didn't happen. He ended up facing off against Gilbert Hernandez. And then there was the fear that the right wing was going to unite against Gustavo Petro in the second round. But that didn't happen. And the one thing I do have to say, fam, and I'll hand it right back over to you, is that I was very happy to see what we didn't see in Brazil. In Brazil, there was no unity after. There was craziness. They had their own January 6th over there, their J8th. It looked very something. It looks like there was manipulation from the ruling class, against the people to be more divisive. That's what it seemed
and
like.
Steve Bannon and the U.S. were pushing that as Well,
definitely. Yeah. And like I said, Brazil has been under United States, the United States boot for quite some time. That there's a lot of stuff that, when a Lula government comes into play, he can't control everything. And when he was in prison and the other opposition got in, it just became a mess. In Colombia, shortly after that last election, very shortly after, we saw a picture of Gilbert Hernandez and Gustavo Petro together, holding thumbs up, uniting, saying, let's go. Let's get back to the business of running the country. You didn't see Gilbert Hernandez carry on and say it was fraudulent and whatnot. And people were able to at least, settle in. This is the Gustavo Petro government. Let's see what could happen. And it went forth pretty quickly, fam, as opposed to the, oh my God, this is like what we saw in Bolivia and what we saw even in Honduras. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't get that kind of stumbleness. And the Colombian election, which we've analyzed, is a pretty good election, fam. Remember sitting at those mesas that called over there? In Nicaragua, you go to the junta. In Colombia, you go to the mesa. And it was a pretty cool election. And they got a pretty good system. So go ahead, fam.
Sorry, guys, I'm recovering from being sick. So I want to just go over, fam, the three main candidates that I think we should focus on. So
should I go to the next article?
This is okay. You can go there and you can just go down. I'm just going to kind of sort of talk it through it here. Let's see. Okay, here. So you have
this one?
Yeah, this one is fine.
Okay.
So you have these three main candidates. Okay. The three main candidates are going to be from the left, from the establishment, and from the far right. And I'm just going to you can leave it there. I'm just going to go over it based on what I know. So you have the elections are going to happen this Sunday, May 31st. And it's the first round, as Pasta said, likely we don't know. We don't think there's going to emerge two winners out of this. And it's going to determine basically what happens to Colombia, right? Because this is what I've been saying about the Don Roe Doctrine. This is another area where they can come in and take it. So it's basically a left versus right election, very much how it is in all of Latin America right now. And when we talk about the left here, we're talking about a left that is not so keen on Israel or the United States, that is resisting the full takeover. So in this case, it would be the Petro-aligned leftists versus the far right or Uribista or Bukele Malay-like governments, which are worse. So the issue is that Colombia, we know, has the narco trafficking thing with it, the cartel expansion, the violence that's risen. If there's not a candidate that wins this time around, there's going to be another election on June 21st. Bam. So write it down. So who are the three candidates? You have Ivan Cepeda, that's Petro's guy, right? You have he's from the same political party. He's 63 years old. He's running on the working class perspective against the paramilitary influence, against foreign domination. So like against the US coming in. He's open to social reform, peace negotiations. He wants to like make peace. Remember how Gustavo Petro talked with FARC and talked to the cartels? He's open to that. He selected an indigenous leader named Aida Quilcui as a vice president, which means a stronger position towards the rural parts, indigenous parts of Colombia. And so he's against NATO alignment, which is important because remember, Colombia was a NATO partner once. The United States does not want this guy, right? The United States is going to run away far from this person. But what they do want is Alvarado de la Espriella, or Colombia's Bukele. So this guy is an ultra-nationalist far right. He's far further right than the Uribista candidate. He has been rising in the polls. He has been pretty much gaining momentum because of Nayib Bukele, because he has positioned himself as being essentially a Nayib Bukele. He is trending with the Trump Malay wing of this, and he has said that he wants to move the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. So he's full on pro-Zionist, US. He wants more of a massive military type of structure in Colombia. He wants to expand oil and mining production. He wants tax cuts and deregulation. He's strong anti-cartel, which means there's going to be more of that anti-cartel. We need to take it down the narco traffickers type of policy. He wants to restore order through force, which basically means more prisons, more surveillance, Bukele style, right? And in this way, deepen the security cooperation with Washington. And then the third candidate is Paloma Valencia. She is the Uribista establishment candidate. So if this were, the United States, a Hillary Clinton type of candidate, a Democrat neoliberal type of candidate, this is a candidate that could also be workable for the United States. She's more traditional, though. She represents this restoring democracy and that type of thing. Definitely militarized governance, definitely going to push the paramilitary structure. She wants to expand the military operations. They also want to reduce taxes and state spending. But what that translates to, it means less help for the people of Colombia. They want to expand the oil industry, but to multinational corporations. And they want to completely abolish all the reforms that Petro did and have a strong alliance with the United States. She is also, by the way, serving as a caucus chair for the Israel Allies Foundation in the Colombian states. So those are the three main candidates. And I have to say, if either her or the guy that I can't say his name win, it's going to be just downhill from there for Colombia. And unfortunately, because you have two right-wing candidates against a leftist candidate, even if the left and the right wing get in there, it's a tough battle because you're going to have the supporters of the other candidates backing, I think, the right this time. Remember when we were in Colombia last, and Petro won because there was a unity of all the coalitions, including some people from the center that supported him.
Yeah, and they definitely showed up the second round too to help him out too as well.
With this lady, I don't see them doing that, and I see them kind of forming a pact to make sure that Gustavo Petro's guy does not win. And I keep forgetting his name, but his name is Ivan Cepeda. Ivan Cepeda doesn't win. And the thing is, the most dangerous person, of course, for this is actually I think the far right candidate, who's Abelardo de la Espriella, who is the Bukele type of guy, because he's hard right. And I think we would see a lot of the violence come back to Colombia, And one of the things when we were in Colombia, 5-6 years ago, was that we saw was that they said, hey, this isn't going to be done in 4 years, 5 years. Petro's only going to be able to get so far. We need somebody else to take it to the next level. This is like, these things don't happen overnight. Colombia was in a violent state, especially under the Uribistas, right? So if one of these right-wing candidates gets in, well, what's going to happen is you're going to undo everything that Petro did very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring back the violence and the actual narco drug trafficking world that they say they want to get rid of. So.
All right, guys, that's it for today. That is the TruthWire. It's an hour and 30-minute show, fam. We did have some timer time, so it's not a whole hour and 30 minutes, but it's a decent-sized show today. No show tomorrow. We've got a lot of stuff going on. But we'll be back Monday. I think we have Caleb Maupin on the books on Monday. We can talk a little bit more about what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, get his perspective over there. And we did you have just something that just went up with you and Vanessa not too long ago?
Yeah, we just posted something not so long ago. So check it out. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I have a new show, guys. I don't know if you heard about it. Really quickly, I'm just gonna pull it up. It's called Drive Time in the Mornings, and you can just see this like a little piece of it really quickly. I'm gonna just share. And this morning I had on Kyle Lanzalone, but it's a fun show, and it's a show where you can call on in and throw your opinions around and tell us what you think. We were talking a lot about this morning, fam. We were talking about economics from a libertarian perspective, healthcare from a libertarian perspective. You never know who's going to call in. This morning, unexpectedly, Keaton Weiss from Due Dissidence called in. Yesterday, we had Karen Kwiatkowski and Don DeBar called in. On Tuesday, we have Nico House, who's a co-host. And on Friday, tomorrow, Andrew Zigman. So every different day of the week, except for Monday. Monday's the open day. We have a different co-host who will be joining us. So it's a fun time to call in. If you're waking up 8 to 10 every single morning, just throw us on and give us a listen. And, of course, I do that same show on WBAI on Wednesdays from 4 to 5 Eastern as well. So just want to thank you all for coming in today, guys. That's it for now. I want to send some love out to Jayme CheeseSlice. She's taking care of some personal problems. I want to thank Gabrielle Freedom, our co-producer, Fred Edward, who's always there hanging around, one of our most famous fun wrenches, and everybody else that always jumps on in to help us on out, fam. That's it for now. You ready to get out of here?
Yeah. We'll see you all later, guys. Have a good rest of your week. See you Monday.
It's pasta. Just checking up on you, see how you're doing.